Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda, and this is the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. Are you ready to kick your business into high gear and unleash your full potential? Introducing the Badass Amplifier Group Accelerator, your ultimate lifeline for taking your business from good to absolutely badass.
If you're tired of feeling like a best-kept secret, battling cash flow issues, or navigating the entrepreneurial journey alone, then the Badass Amplifier is your game changer. Our 6-month accelerator is designed for ambitious entrepreneurs like you who love what they do but crave more from their business journey.
Get ready to elevate your small business with expert guidance, revenue-generating strategies, and the essential foundations to propel your business forward. Say goodbye to feeling lost and overwhelmed. We're here to turn your passion into a thriving business.
Join the Badass Amplifier Group Accelerator today and transform from winging it to owning it. Visit badassamplifier.com for more information. You have just 5 more days to grab a spot.
Let's amplify your badasserie together. Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We are back again, the dynamic duo, and we're talking about something that we talk about a lot, actually, and that is the importance of investing in yourself.
Absolutely. I would not be doing myself service if I would not be doing us service if I did not start with one of the most profound moments that I think changed a bit of the trajectory of like my business career. It made me take a leap is I had an opportunity to purchase a franchise. This franchise would be to coach, consult, and train at a very different level in a professional manner, because I was already doing it in a network organization that I belonged to, but also in it's just always been natural. And I remember struggling with, should I do it? Should I not? I was like, okay, I'm going to do it, but do I need to get all this extra training? Do I need to do this? And I remember I was actually in Oahu with girlfriends of mine where we went to Oahu to watch Wicked, which by the way is coming out to be a movie now. I'm super stoked. We were going to watch Wicked. I was sitting watching the paddlers in the canal, and I heard a loud voice and it says, if you don't invest in yourself, how do you expect others to invest in you? And it shook me, because it's not that I wouldn't do things, but I typically did things for others. I put other people first. I did for others. I mean, at that point, I was a single mom of 3 teenage kids. Like I was, but that moment, hearing that, absolutely, like my life changed after that in a lot of ways, my business life. But it really got me to say, I need to, although I did it, like I love learning, I love podcasting, I love all these different things, but this was like an investment, a financial investment in myself to up-level my skill set in a very different level. So that way I could serve more. And it was mind-blowing to me.
That's actually one of my favorite quotes. So I'm going to repeat it so that everybody catches it in case you didn't. And that it's, if you do not invest in yourself, how can you expect other people to invest in you? That has had a huge impact on my life as well, because it's so easy to, well, for me anyway, it was all about give. What can I do for other people? And I love that. And I was pouring from an empty cup. You've got to fill your own cup. You've got, and I know it's cliche, and let me just put it on a cup and wear a t-shirt. I get it. It's cliche, but it's true. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And so if you are constantly investing in your clients, in your business, in your family, in your spouse, and your friends, everything around you, but you're never actually pouring into yourself, it's going to lead to burnout. It's going to lead to bitterness and stress and all the things that are the opposite of why you wanted to start a business and why you wanted to, live the life that you live. So when I think about investing myself, and when I say investing, I do truly mean time and money and education and energy. It's all the things. It's not just money. It's not just time. It's all of the things. Because when you're really investing in yourself, it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of energy. It's a little bit of time. It's a little bit of money. There's all the things that go into that, but it's worth it because ultimately all that you're putting back in, all that you're pouring into yourself is going to overflow into everybody else. Because the more you pour into your cup, it doesn't mean you have to empty it out. It means it's just going to overflow. It's like the champagne pyramid. You continue to pour champagne into the top, and then the champagne trickles to everybody around you, in your personal and professional life. And I'm a firm believer in that. And it has changed the way I do business. It's changed my mindset around business and personal development, because I do feel so strongly that you must pour into yourself. And I don't do it enough at all. I will acknowledge that I don't do it enough. I tend to do more professional cup filling than personal cup filling. That is just because I am a self-proclaimed workaholic. I love what I do. And so I find it easier personally to invest in business development because I know I'm going to get back that ROI. And so for me as, sole parent, it makes more sense to me to invest either in my professional development or in my child's life than it does to necessarily invest in, facials and massages. Though when I was in Thailand, I did plenty of those. I'll pop back over and do like 11 in a week. But the concept still rings true. You have to, what's important to you, invest in that. If it's important to you, fill up that cup, let it overflow into other things, because it will change how you feel about life in general, not just your business, but life, all parts of it.
Absolutely. I love the champagne example with the champagne tower and like the flowing, because it is, I heard somebody recently, they were talking about the cup, and, we've had many versions of this, because that whole saying, I feel like I for a long time, I was definitely pouring from an empty cup. So you can give, but it's just like you can give more, and you can give more to yourself too. But somebody was talking about you don't take what's in your cup, but as you fill your cup, what flows over onto the saucer is what you give, right? So there's plenty to still give. And I just love that example. I do want to, though, kind of go to the other people who maybe aren't as big of givers or whatnot. There's an aspect of you're not learning so that way you can give more, but also there are people who things come intuitively easier for us. We're that, things absolutely come easier for us. In some aspects, some is learned, some is intuition, right? Some is experience, right, with entrepreneurship, and some is some that is more intuitive. But I find that where people feel like things come easy for them as well, they don't always invest in themselves because they're it comes they're just complacent. And I've actually been called complacent in some of my gifts because things come super easy to me. And not that I don't want to learn and invest in that aspect. It's just not a priority right now. And this is more on the personal side, but still it rings so true that for those of us that things come easy to us, or natural for us, or intuitive for us, a lot of times we can forget to invest in ourselves too, because things just come easy. We figure it out. We don't need to do that, but that's not true. It gives us actually more ammo for the intuitiveness, that natural aspect of ours to just be stronger and more foundational and even more expansive, I would say, in some aspects. So I don't want the people who feel I don't just give and give and give, things come easy for me. I'm doing for myself, whatever. That this is also about you, that investing in self, even those who aren't just doing it to give to others, but to grow your own intuitiveness and your own smarts, if you would.
And I would actually even say that if you are naturally good at something, and Lynn and I both have a lot of things that we sort of naturally fall into. We're not trying to toot our own horns. It's just facts. And I like to give the analogy of somebody who's naturally good at soccer. Do you just say like, oh, well, you're going to do fine, you're just naturally good at soccer, or do you get them a soccer coach that's going to take them the next level of that soccer skill that they're naturally good at? Can they skate by? Yeah. But if they really want to make soccer their profession, they're going to need a coach to invest in that skill that already comes naturally to them. So there are examples that are outside of what our normal lives are, that you can really see how that investment, even if it comes naturally, or even if we feel like we might not need it because we can skate by on what we have, why it's even more important to invest. Because if it does come naturally, think how much more successful you could be if you invested a little bit in that. If you pushed a little bit, if you leaned into that a bit more, how much more successful could you be?
100%. I wish I remembered the statistics. I wouldn't know the updated statistics, but the top CEOs in the world, the top athletes in the world, the top money makers in the world, they all invest in themselves in multiple ways, not just one dimensional. They're going to have maybe a consultant that works with them on their business. They're going to have their right-hand person who keeps them in line. They're going to have, for example, if we take your example, the soccer coach, they don't just have whatever position they're playing. They have the overall coach. They have maybe a stamina coach. They probably have a financial coach. They probably have a spiritual coach or a life coach of some sort. So they're hitting different aspects of their life. And I'm talking about the top tier. If you look at them, the percentages are high of those that have some kind of consultant, coach, mentor, guide, guru, whatever you want to call it. It's all helping them invest in themselves, build that aspect of their being, of their profession, of their life. And it's so it isn't that if you want to be, those top people are doing it. And so we can learn something from them. There are so many famous stories about famous people and kind of their paved way to success and how they've stayed on top. And it absolutely, I would say more than 90% will accredit part of that to the outsiders who, or how they invested in themselves, how they invested in their mindset, their ability, their mental ability, their physical ability, whatever that is. Yeah, it's so important to invest in ourselves.
I mean, it's straight up investing in your future. When you invest in yourself, you are investing in the best investment of your life, because you are investing in yourself and your future and your dreams and your aspirations. And there is no better investment, because that is going to pay off tenfold. It always does. And I will say that for those people who said, oh, well, I invested in XYZ and I hated it and it didn't pay off and I didn't learn anything, I'm going to counter that, because for example, I've known some people like, oh, I took this course and I never finished it and I didn't get anything out of it. I'm like, okay, well, you didn't fully invest. You didn't finish it.
Just because you paid doesn't mean you invested.
Just because you paid doesn't mean you invested. And maybe you got something out of it that wasn't what you intended, but you still got something out of it. Because sometimes the investment that you make in a desired outcome, maybe it's not the actual desired outcome that comes from it, but something else, positive or negative, depending on your mindset. But I have had many, like hundreds of thousands of dollars have been invested in professional development, not even including my multiple degrees. Like if you don't include like hundreds of $1,000s in actual normal, education, there are trainings that I took that I didn't really feel like I got out of it what I wanted to get out of it, but I still got something out of it, even if it was more knowledge in that subject that I didn't really want to pursue. It's like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And now I have this skill set, but I'm not really going to do as much with it. For example, I did a lot of work and development on website architecture and web design. I do still do stuff with that, and having a general knowledge has helped me. But at the time, I thought I was going to do that as a way to make money, and it really hasn't That isn't what I got out of it. Eventually, it was more like having more knowledge of technology behind the scenes has helped me in my business. But when I took that course, I thought it was going to be a business. And so I got something different out of it. I still learned, even though I didn't make six figures off of being a web designer back in, I don't know, 2002 or however many years ago that first training went out, because, computers were just starting. Oh, Lord. But the point is,
Ourselves.
something different came out of it. It was a different outcome. It wasn't what I wanted, but the investment still sticks, because even though I didn't get what I thought I was going to get out of it, I got something out of it. And it has helped me grow. And all the subsequent and continuing education I've done in computers has gotten me somewhere, even if it wasn't where the course necessarily said it was going to get me.
Well, and I would challenge people that a lot of times, first of all, again, I want to repeat, just because you paid doesn't mean you invested, right? If you're not fully in, if you're not open to learn, if you're not open to process through and take action, if you're not open to see things from different angles, then are you really investing? You paid. That's not always an investment, right? And not an investment in oneself, in my opinion. That's just a cost. That's an expense. It's not an investment. An investment means that you're going to get something in return. An expense means that, or cost doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting something in return, right? So just keep that in your mind. And I'll give you a great example, as well as that. I remember I was coaching and consulting, but this is when I really wanted to start stepping more. And I was already speaking on stages, but I wanted to grow that. And so one of my coaches at the time invited me to go to this conscious business conference. And there were hundreds of people in the room. And I remember her telling me, like, when you watch the people at the front of the stage, I want you to not just listen to what they're doing. And this was actually a little bit into the process, but she set me up first. I want you to watch the people at the front of the stage. And I was like, okay. So I'm watching them at the front of the stage, and I paid to go. I paid to travel. It was not in Hawaii, it was in California. So I invested costs. I had costs. I get there and I'm watching that and I'm like, they're totally they're selling from fear. That's so against my grain, blah, blah, blah. And I shut myself down. And I had a conversation with her at a break, and she's like, I want you to change the way you're looking at it. And obviously you're not going to do things that way, but they're talking to a certain audience. That audience isn't yours. So the people who are going to buy are not your people, because they want that victim mode, kind of like being sold to by fear, right? They want that. So what can you learn from them? So maybe you're learning not what to do, but what not to do, right? And it was mind-blowing to me to be in a lot of ways, it changed my perspective, and I was able to pull I learned so much. That was me because I was open to learn. I had to change my mindset in the middle of the conference to be open to learn, because otherwise it would have just been an expense. It wouldn't have been an investment, because I wouldn't have taken anything out of that. And I even write about I will write about one particular thing in our financial book when we have the Badasserie financial edition, because something big happened there. But there are so many little nuggets that came after that, because I opened myself up to learn and to take and to receive. So that way it was more of an investment versus a cost or an expense.
Absolutely. I think that's such an important distinction. And, it reminds me vaguely of years ago. I was certified stop Pilates instructor, and I was getting an additional certification as an MI in Peak Pilates, which for anybody who's in the Pilates world, they're totally different companies and you have to take different training. And I struggled with the second training because I had so much ingrained for me from this certification that it was like, this is the way they do it. This is the way it's supposed to be done. This is the order. This is the and I actually had a discussion with my instructor, and I was like, I'm really struggling over separating out the theories and the practices of each thing. And she's like, well, you've got to realize that you've taken the time to invest in this. You've got to get yourself open to learning a different way, that you learned it this way. and you've been teaching it that way for 10 years, and this is a different way to teach it. And so you've got to learn between a classical style versus your contemporary style. You've got to learn that they both have valid points, and you're just learning something new, and you have to be open to it. Because if you're going to close yourself off and be like, well, this way is better, this is the way I've been doing it for 10 years, it's better, then you're never going to get anything out of this. You will have just paid the money, had an expense, gotten a cert because you're going to wing it because you're already skilled, you're going to wing it and get through, or you can actually open yourself up and really fully invest in yourself and learn a different modality, and then be a double threat with all the knowledge that you have, because you can switch back and forth between multiple visions of, which basically is the same exercise. So that to me opened a lot of different things, because it's the whole concept of, 1 + 3 is 4, but so is 2 + 2. There's a lot of different ways to do things, and you have to be open to it. Otherwise, just like Lynn said, there are plenty of ways that you can rack up expenses, but investing in yourself is different. Truly investing is different.
Absolutely. So now let's talk about, and Amanda, you brought this up earlier, is one thing to keep in mind is we should be our number one client, both in the business and in life. So we should be our number one. And a lot of times, and you were talking about this earlier, is like on the personal side, investing in self is like putting yourself first, is doing the workout, is maybe getting the massage. Saying no and boundaries is also an investment in self. And we've been speaking about this a lot, and I really wanted to bring this into this particular podcast because I think it's not spoke about enough in overall, that it is a part of investing in self, like creating those boundaries and being able to say no is so important to building yourself and investing in yourself, because the boundaries is not just, it's not just for others, but it's for yourself. And it's not just for yourself, it's for others. And that whole saying no is like putting yourself first. Like if you're not feeling it, if it's not 100%, and I find myself too, even though I'm good at saying no at a lot of things, there are a lot of things that sometimes like, I'm like, whatever, like I'll just go with. And when really it's a no. And I still don't understand. And it's usually when I'm with close people, like with like super close friends. And I think that's more of my people pleaser kind of like unhealed child, a little bit, or like, just like try not to make waves or whatever it is. But what?
Go with the flow.
Yeah,
Be
I've been noticing it lately.
adaptable.
Yeah, I've been doing it again, and I'm like, oh no, that's not okay. And so like investing in self is learning and reconnecting to those boundaries, those no's, and like knowing your needs. What are your needs? And like making sure you're pulling from wherever you need to pull from to nourish those needs. That's investing in self, because everybody's internal needs are different. And it can be different depending on your season, lifetime type of thing. Like sometimes my need is to like not talk to a soul and stay in my condo. And sometimes I need to around people.
I know, it's always like, oh, don't you have a fear of missing out? Like, no, I have a fear of being involved. No, I don't have a fear of missing out. I have a fear of like seeing people and being involved in anything. So, but it's true though. You really have to understand what your boundaries are. And I know it's difficult, and I acknowledge, because I do it, I will not always, but 99% of the time, I will put my personal boundaries behind everything else. So I want to have an appointment, I will change my appointment because my kid has an appointment. I will change this because the client wants to meet. Like I do it all the time. Not because I don't have value for myself, but because I'm like, I'll just do it later. Like I'll figure it out. I'll fit it in. I'll be adaptable. I'll be flexible. I'll be accommodating. And, it's a work in progress, but there are some non-negotiables, and I am hard on my non-negotiables. And the older I get, the more non-negotiables I have. However, it's a work in progress, and sometimes it's different. It's different in different seasons. Like, obviously, for me anyway, because I have a young child, like around Christmas, very few of my personal needs are being met, but it's all about creating memories for my kid. But there are other months where I it's not really about his needs at all. I mean, of course it's about his needs, but there's a lot more of me in there. So it fluctuates based on what's going on in your life. And I think you need to be nice to yourselves and also understand that some of that boundary setting, and it's about harmony. It's not balance. It's not always going to be equal. It's not always going to be the same, but the overlining arcing point is there still has to be investment in self. And it may be different from month to month, week to week, year to year. And in my opinion, if you're really going to have a fulfilled life and a life that you can look back on and be like, I am proud of that. And I am thrilled that I took that time for myself, that's going to be investing in yourself. And you can define what self is and what the investment is. But I've never looked back on a personal investment journey and thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Never.
No,
There's
not
not
when
a
you're
single,
looking at it as an investment. You definitely recognize that.
no, there's not a single regret that I have on any investment I've made, except for that one stock market thing.
Ugh.
But
Well,
that's
not
stocks. That's different.
investing,
That wasn't
yeah,
on me.
but that's a whole other topic. Ah.
That's an expense, not an investment.
Yeah. As you're sitting here talking, I often speak about indirect manifestation. That means that you're doing something over here and like indirectly you're manifesting things to happen. And I'm reflective of like when we were going to start our podcast, like I love podcasts, I love but I got off kind of like the bandwagon of listening. And I remember when we started our podcast, and we were asking people what podcasts you listen to, and like we're expecting these like growths in our podcast and our YouTube channel. And I was like, well, shit, I'm not listening to podcasts. So if I want others to do for me, I need to do right. And so like that, even though I'm listening to podcasts and not asking them to follow my podcast, I feel like it's like an indirect manifestation. I'm putting energy where energy goes, energy flows. Like even like when we started maybe talking about writing books, even a year before, like even before that, I buckled down and I was like listening to I forget how many I listened to in that 1 year, but I like to listen to audiobooks. And I really amped up my book intake from 0 to 1 is amping up, but maybe I'd read a couple books a year. But then I started reading at least one a month. Well, that 1 year I read a bunch, but Audible books. But so this indirect manifestation as well about investing in self. Like if you want a return on investment somewhere else, like what efforts are you putting in? Investing in to make that happen. And when you can do it in alignment of the direction that you want to go, besides just like depositing into self, right? It can profoundly have movement and changes and results in your life and in your business.
Absolutely. It's funny that you've only talking about you reading books. I'm like, I read 6 this week. I get into the books. So but we all know I'm a book snob. I'm the book snob of the group. I love, love, love to read. It's an introvert thing. It's like an introvert quality, and that's part of my self-investment for me too. It's part of my invest in self, because if I might not be getting daily massages currently, it's going to be on the docket, I think, for coming up. I might not be getting that, but I do things daily for myself that are purely for myself for no other reason than I enjoy them. And that's investing in self. I regularly invest in my business and personal and professional development. Even in things that aren't really necessarily things I like or things that I have any natural skill in, but that I really need to learn just for my own personal satisfaction. You can choose what you invest in. That's what's so great about it. And as long as you are remembering that it is an investment, you will not regret it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And investment doesn't always have to be cash, just FYI. It could be taking a bubble bath. It could be taking time out for yourself, reading a book. So just a last little nugget in there. But, we really want you to think on your pursuit of badasserie. Like, where are you investing in yourself? And what's kind of like your take on investment of self? Like, are you that person who's like, I'm not going to learn anything. I'm going in with ego. And I'll actually give one more example because a newer client of mine is a coach, is an executive coach. And he had bought into another program. And he's wanting to create some programs, some bigger programs versus like the trainings that he has. And I said, I want you to look at it through two lenses. I want you to not only look at it through like, you as a student, but also you as a facilitator. Watch how they facilitate, like watch how they do things. Like, so are you maximizing the ability of the investment, the return on that investment, right? So for him, it wasn't even just like learning as an individual and as a student, but it was also learning as another facilitator. And what can we take from there, right? So, what's your mindset around investment, and like, how are you investing though? Like, do a reality check. How are you investing in yourself and in your business? Is it in alignment of where you want to go? And what's your mindset around it? Are you completely open to learn, or are you going into it with ego? Are you going into it with, I already know all this? Are you going into it with, this isn't my stuff, right? Okay, well, then it's not an investment. It's a cost. It's an expense. So yeah.
So if this is resonating with you, or if you know someone else who might need a little push on investing in self, make sure you like, subscribe, send this to them, and start a conversation.
Yeah. DM us if you want to learn more about investing in your business future. Till next time.
Get after it.
All right, everyone. It's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.